white man, that has a great relationship with the white man, that is receiving tutelage and financing from the white man, and who thinks, acts, and lives like the white man. The biggest problem in Africa, one of them, and in Black America, Black Europe, everywhere, we think that only the Black bourgeoisie can solve the problems of Africa. Nothing could be further from the truth. These Negroes shop in Europe. They have homes in Europe. They live in exclusive suburbs. They wear all European clothing. In many cases, their women look like white women, or they go out of their way to look like white women. They pray to a white Jesus. In other words, how can there be an African leader who imitates European leadership? African leadership must be original. African leadership must be authentic. And African leadership must come from the grassroots community. Whenever you show me an African head of state who has been trained by America's military or trained at a European university, I can almost guarantee you that they will be useless to the African independence movement. They will be useless because although the body is African, the face is African, the hair is African, the mindset is almost exclusively that of a European. They are European Africans. And we have to stop putting them in office because their job is not to serve Africa. It's to serve the European neo-colonial agenda.
I think
And if
that
we
is.
keep on letting them Chinese, if we keep on letting them Chinese in Africa, I'm going to tell you right now what's going to happen. Within 50 years, I promise you this, if we keep on giving China everything it wants, and let us be clear, why is China in Africa? Four reasons. Four reasons. Number one, China is overpopulated. China has over 2 billion people and it doesn't have space. China is always looking for new places where it can expel its useless residents to. So that's number one. They're looking for places to send their excess population because China is overcrowded. Number two, China is the Walmart of the planet Earth. China is the number one producer of cheap goods, cheap military weapons. So China is always looking for new markets where it can sell its excess junk. Africa is the perfect place for that because given the devaluation of African currency, our people on the continent can't necessarily afford the things that are being sold in Europe and America. So China can come with its knockoff versions of those same products and get rich off of everyday Africans. Number three, China wants to exploit African mineral resources. We obviously know that because China is in a Cold War with America. And number four, fourth and final, China needs a place where it can set up additional industries and pay people almost like slaves, like a slave labor wage. What better place to go than Africa, where many of our brothers and sisters are poor, are struggling. Many of our children go to bed without sufficient food. So, you know, if you open up businesses in Africa, you'll be able to get rich by paying Africans a very meager wage. To make a long story short, they are there to exploit. And within 50 years, I promise you, there's going to be a conflict between Africans on the ground, the grassroots, and the Chinese. And it's going to erupt into a civil war in Africa between the Chinese and the indigenous African population. And it may end badly for us because we do not have the military technology to take on China. But it's going to come to a cataclysmic confrontation because Black Africans are getting sick and tired of bourgeoisie African leadership selling out the country to the Chinese.
Now, you travel a lot to Africa. Do you meet African leaders? And when you meet them and you express these concerns, what are they telling you?
To make a long story short, what I hear from most of them, sometimes directly and sometimes indirectly,
All right. I guess you can hear me now.
Okay, we're good.
All
We're
right.
good.
Yes. So I was saying that we have a few examples in Africa today, at least one that I know that has set to hell with the colonialists, and he is doing extremely well. His country is doing extremely well. And I think he is indeed a good example of a developmental leader, void of a certain degree of democracy, which you were preaching here. And I'm talking about the president of Rwanda. That is a country that was a former French colony. When he took over after the war in Rwanda, he sent the French out, essentially, changed the system, turned it Anglo-Saxon, and you go to Rwanda today, you will not believe that is a country that was in severe war in which close to 1 million people died. Rwanda has become the center of technology in Africa. I think that is what you are saying. I think you are saying it is going to take men like such as what is his name again? Going off my mind, but it would take men like him to transform Africa, isn't it?
Absolutely. And here's another mistake we make as Africans globally. So, as a Pan Africanist, normally anything I say is applicable to us anywhere. We have to stop. And this is where our religious immaturity negatively affects our political progress. African people, all of us, most of us, we are religiously immature. And what I mean by that is we allow our religious beliefs to infect our political strategy. The reason why we don't have more Kwame Nkrumahs, the reason we don't have more Patrice Lumumba's, the reason we don't have more Robert Sobukwe and Sekou Touré's and Julius Nyerè's and Didi Kamathis, the reason we don't have more is because religion has taught us that leaders are chosen by God. You pray for your leaders. This is a big problem in Africa, African America, everywhere. We pray for leaders. Other races build leadership colleges and they train them. The Chinese train their leaders, they make them. The Europeans train their leaders, they make them. The French, the Arabs, they train their leaders, they make them. And the reason why we get one good leader or two good leaders every generation is because we don't have leadership schools. We don't have leadership institutes and universities. We are being influenced by Islam and Christianity to believe we got to pray and wait until God sends us a Messiah from heaven. That is a very immature position to take, but it is one that most African communities in the world have taken. We're waiting for God to drop a Jesus from heaven as opposed to building a Jesus from the ground up in our own schools and universities.
All right. That is interesting. Now let us talk about. You talked about the African Union. The African Union essentially doesn't exist. It's a name on paper because these people, they don't have any power. There have been conflicts in Africa, and I spoke with you briefly about the conflict going on in the Cameroons. Today, it has been going on for 4 good years, and over 12,000 people have been killed, and over 100,000 in refugees camps in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Gabon, in Democratic Republic of the Congo. And you have over 800,000 internally displaced with over 400 communities raised down by government forces, government soldiers. This has been ongoing for 4 years and counting. And you would think that the African Union would as much as come in and say, let us understand what is going on. Let's have a hearing on what is going on. No, not even for a moment has the African Union weighed in to try to mediate peace. That is the problem with the African Union.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And the purpose of the African Union going back to the dream of an honorable Marcus Garvey to a dream of an Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the purpose of the African Union was to ultimately bring about a United States of Africa, where you have one military, one education system, one currency. However, as much as I love the idea of the United States of Africa, and as much as I believe that that is a solution for the African continent, at the same time, it could be a curse if you evolve into a United States of Africa where the member states are not sovereign and are still in debt to Britain and to the US and to the UK and to China. A United States of Africa only benefits a free Africa. A United States of Africa will never benefit an enslaved and colonialized Africa, because if that is the case, then the United States of Africa will only allow the European and Chinese neo-colonizers to more effectively control the continent. So until we are free, there need not be a United States of Africa, or it will simply be a weapon of the West.
I kind of rather think that a United States of Africa, it's not possible because of the influence of China, the French, the British, and the Americans. I think that is why you would not have a United States of America, because of the conflict of interest within these powers.
I agree with you. It is against their interests to allow such a thing. African unity is death to neocolonialism. As you said earlier, 75%, if not more, of the world's resources come from sub-Saharan Africa. 75% of the world's resources comes from sub-Saharan Africa. The United States of America, which is less than 5% of the entire world, consumes nearly 50% of the world's resources. In other words, America is the vampire of Africa. Yes, the UK, yes, China, but America in particular is the vampire of Africa. And Africa needs to evolve a new policy towards America. It has to. You cannot. Africa has a new word for neocolonialism, and it's called investment. The new word for neocolonialism in Africa is called investment, where we want to let white corporations come into Africa and steal the gold, steal the silver, steal the oil, steal the gas, steal the tea, the salt market. Anytime we want to let a new white person come in, or Chinese come into Africa and steal, we don't call it neocolonialism anymore. We call it investment. They are investing in Africa. They're not investing. They are stealing and neo-colonializing. Listen to this. The average African government in most African nations doesn't own a bank that has a higher level of investment capital than the foreign banks that operate within that country. How can you be a sovereign nation and your money is printed by the same country that enslaved you and robbed you for the past 100 years? That is an absolute contradiction to say we are an independent nation, but my money is held in trust by France. My money is held in trust by Portugal. My money is held in trust by England and the United States. How are you sovereign when your colonizer prints your money, controls your money, and then determines how much of your own money you are allowed to have?
It's unfortunate. Let's talk about the African American Africans relationship. And I have heard you
Yes,
talked
sir.
about the former President Barack Obama. You were asked a question, what you expected of him as a black president, and you said, no, you were asked about what you expect of, I think, a Donald Trump presidency, and you said you expect from Trump, I think, what people expected from Obama, essentially you were saying, is going to be the same thing. I want to say that Africans expected a lot from the presidency of Barack Obama, being that he is a true descendant of Africa from Kenya. We expected a lot. Some of the things that you have mentioned here, we really thought, some of us who are in the diaspora and see what is going on back home, we thought Barack Obama was in the place to tear down some of these old practices and bring in a new spirit, inject a new spirit in leadership, in government, in democracy in Africa. Essentially, Barack Obama did nothing. Nothing. Rather, he was trying to push a gay and lesbian agenda on Africa. I remember Hillary Clinton going to Uganda and telling Africans American aid is going to be henceforth tied to your acceptance of lesbianism and homosexualism. This is the problem we have. Africans feel like African Americans are not supporting this kind of transparent institutions in Africa. And the Obama example is a glaring example.
Well, Barack Obama is an anomaly because although he is biologically African, he is 100% psychologically a European. So I wouldn't call him an African, and I wouldn't call him an African American. He doesn't belong to either of us. He belongs to the United States government. Now, the question is not why Barack Obama betrayed African people. The question is, why did African people believe that Barack Obama signaled any change in policy towards Africa? See, that's the mistake that we're making. We keep letting white supremacy outthink us and out-strategize us. What proof did we have? What evidence did we have that suggested that Barack Obama was going to be anything new for black people? See, we have this mistake we make that a black face equals black power. And I'm here to tell you unequivocally, black power is not necessarily contained within a black person. In fact, it's usually the opposite. The blacker the government, the more white the power behind it, because we do not finance our own campaigns. If you go to Africa and look at who's financing campaigns, if you go to the UK and look at who's financing black political campaigns, if you come to America and look at who finances campaigns, if you would have even looked at who financed Barack Obama, if you would have only looked at his major campaign contributors, you would have known from the beginning that Barack Obama is not being elected to bring about some African renaissance. As you've already stated, he was put in office for two reasons: to homosexualize black men in America in the interest of population control, and to go into Africa and make Africa safe, convenient, and comfortable for Western exploitation again, to make Africa safe for neocolonialism. And he achieved both goals. And Barack Obama achieved those goals more efficiently than George Bush, Bill Clinton, George Bush Sr., Jimmy Carter. And the reason he was so effective in Africa and the reason he was so effective in Black America is because we made the faulty political assumption that he was sent by God to save us. He was sent by the devil.
Well, but let us look at the large African American community in the U.S. You talk to many Africans, they will tell you they feel discriminated against by black Americans. I'm talking about those in America. You ask Africans in America, where do you find the most racism and discrimination? I bet you the majority will tell you they are segregated and discriminated most by black Americans, African Americans, than by the white Americans. So it appears it is not just an Obama thing, it is something that is ingrained in the larger population or the African American, their inability to welcome their own brothers from Africa?
Great point. First of all, I want to say that we have to be very careful of making sweeping generalizations because number one, they're not true. And number two, they do not help us to forge a unified Pan African front. I believe in one race, one people. You understand? One Africa. With that being said, I am quite certain that what you say is true. That there are Africans from the continent who come to America and may be mistreated by African Americans. But I can also tell you the reverse is also true. There are Africans in America who mistreat, ignore African Americans, and they will do that in deference to white people, that they will act like they don't even see other black people. My point is, it happens in both ways. I've been to Africa and I've had to deal with chauvinism from African brothers and sisters. I've had to endure taunts. I don't talk about this, but I've went through these things, disrespectful comments. Why do I not bring it up? Why do I not discuss it? Because number one, 99% of all Africans I've ever met in the world, whether they be in North America, South America, the Caribbean, Europe, Asia, or Africa, they have always embraced me as their brother. Yes, there will always be coons. There's coons in Africa. There's coons in America. There's coons in the Caribbean. There's coons in Canada. Of course, there will be African Americans who don't accept Africans. Of course, there will be Africans who don't accept African Americans. But I'm not focused on that because I understand that the solution is for all of us to unite on the global level. Because if we don't learn how to work together as one family, we will die as a separated people. So that, and also let me clarify this. I believe consciousness seeks out consciousness of its own quality. I'm a Pan-Africanist, so I'm going to attract other Pan-Africans. If I don't like continental Africans, then I'm going to attract continental Africans who don't like African Americans. So we need to also recognize when you find this continental African American tension, you're normally dealing with an African American coon and a continental African coon. Because as a Pan-Africanist who's traveled the world, 99% of our people will embrace us. I will not focus on that 1% of Negro coon who doesn't recognize that we must unify or die.
You talk about Pan-Africanism, and I'd like to know your vision of Pan-Africanism. What do you hope to achieve in your perspective of Pan-Africanism?
Great question. And of course, just yesterday, we celebrated the life and works of the great Pan-Africanist forefather from the Bahamas, Dr. Edward Wilmot Blyden, who, as you know, came to Liberia, became Secretary of State, one of the most prolific African scholars of all time, one of the most published and articulate of all time, one of our greatest educators of all time. Also this month, right now, Black August, from the 1st through the 31st, we commemorate the 100th anniversary, the centennial of the Most Honorable Marcus Garvey's International Convention of the African Peoples of the World that took place in New York City for 31 days and nights. And it was from that conference we get the red, black, and green Pan-African flag. Pan-Africanism can be summed up in 3 points. Number one, we are all family and we identify as family first. You're not a Muslim who happens to be an African. You are African who happens to be a Muslim. You're not a Ghanaian who happens to be an African. You are African who happens to be a Ghanaian. The race is always first. And the reason we identify as being African first is because God chose your race. You chose your religion. You can change your nationality. You can change your language, but you African for the rest of your life. God made you an African. So nothing is more important. Not your religion, your culture, your language, your flag. Nothing supersedes the African family. That's number one. We identify as African family first. Hashtag AFF. Number two, What is to be done for African people must be done by African people. So there is no non African membership, there is no non African money in our revolutionary struggle. Because, as the African proverb goes, the hand that pays is the hand that rules. And as you can see, after 60 years of neocolonialist investment and loans in Africa, Africa worse now than it was on the eve of independence. So we don't want no white people in our movements or Chinese or Arabs or anybody else, and we don't want their money. Our victories are African victories, or they are not victories at all. Number three, as the mother continent goes, so goes all African people. One of the contradictions of the African American civil rights struggle, one of the contradictions of the African British civil rights struggle, in the African Canadian civil rights struggle, in the African French civil rights struggle, the French African civil rights struggle, is it wasn't tied up with the continental struggle for the liberation of Africa. As Africa goes, we all go. The whole diaspora is chained to the progress or death of the mother continent. A strong Africa means strong Black America. A strong Africa means a strong Black Europe. A strong Black Africa means a strong Black Caribbean. And a weak Black Africa means a weak Black America. And what we need to understand in the diaspora is we have a direct role to play in the liberation of the mother continent. There has been one strategy that has not been tried yet for the liberation of Africa and all of her scattered Black children. And that one strategy is a global pan-African revolution. I'm not just talking about Africa. I'm not just talking about Black America. I'm not just talking about Central and South America or the Caribbean or the South Pacific Islands full of Africans. I'm saying all of us, all 2+ billion around the globe, must rise up at once together to throw off the shackles of European colonialism and Chinese neocolonialism. We can do this. The world cannot stop the rush of 2 billion Africans at the same time, totally united without any tribal schisms or petty differences. Nothing can stop the African except the African himself.
We can do it, as you say. But one would like to ask, how are you, I mean, with such passion that we see in you for this, how are you doing this? Are you building some groups, some coalitions with which to achieve some of these things, or you just being vocal, hoping that somebody picks up the ideas and run with them?
Absolutely not. I'm a Pan Africanist and a Garveyite, and I say that with pride. We believe in action. Our nationalism is an action based nationalism. Right now, I'm in the process of renovating two beautiful schools in Wilmington, Delaware, which will be the first of several Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey academies, where we will teach African leadership. We will teach international relations, international affairs, global economics. We are training Black boys to be the Black African leaders that we need around the world. We will teach them white supremacy. They will learn how to speak African languages. They will understand military science. They will know why and how the European and Chinese came to control so much of the African continent. Again, as I said earlier, education and economics is the right foot and left foot of African liberation. And as a psychologist and an educator, it is my obligation to help reconstruct the African mind. Because if you do not have a psychological revolution, there will never be a military revolution. If you do not have a psychological revolution, there will never be a political revolution. If you do not have a psychological revolution, there will never be an educational one, a social one, a dietary one, a family one. Change the African mind first, or you change nothing else. You and I both know that there have been scores of African leaders who came into power, who took over from the European and became just like the European on top of their own people. So changing out white power for Black power doesn't liberate African people unless the Black power has a African consciousness. I'm beginning with the schools, but then we need the hospitals, we need the banks, we need the military systems, we need the farms. We need a global African movement that is based on independent institutions. Because only if you control the institution can you change the behavior. How did white people come into Africa and change the tongue of millions within 25 years? Change the tongue of tens of millions within 40 years? How can you change the tongue of an entire people in a few decades? Because you take over the institutions. You take over the means by which you get food, food, clothing, shelter, work. When you control the institutions that the people need, you can control how the people behave. And the reason we cannot make African people globally walk the Pan-African life and live the African cultural way is because we don't have what they need to survive. Once we start building and providing our people with what they need to survive, then everybody will become a Pan-African nationalist.
When you run an institution like yours in Africa to train African minds, potential African leaders, when you run such an institution in the USA, you know the difficulties of Africans, most Africans accessing it. What do you think? Don't you think you should get to Africa and put some of those institutions on the ground for the people to have access to those kind of institutions?
Absolutely. And there was a chance that the very first school was going to be in Africa. And the reason that the first school is not in Africa is for two reasons, and two reasons only. Number one, there were things that took place these past few years in my personal life that required me to stay close to home. Africa's home, stay close to this colonization, if you would. So that's one reason. Developments in my personal life that gave me obligations that required that I stay close to home. That's number one. And number two, I practice traditional African spirituality. And in a divination that I had with my priest, I was told that my first school was to be near my quote unquote home in America, which it is, Wilmington, Delaware, only 30 minutes away from Philadelphia. So that is why the first school is here, because based on what I believe in, it is the Creator's design for the first school to be in America. But it is my wish that the second school will be in Africa. And we want the schools all over the world, not only in Africa, not only in North America, but all over the world. So if you were to ask me, what is my dream job? I'll tell you what my dream job is. And any African watching this broadcast, I want them to take it to their government and their head of state and their Secretary of Education. I would like to be Secretary of Education or Deputy Secretary of Education for an African nation. I would love to build my schools from the foundation and platform of being a part of a ministry of education for an African nation that is trying to reconstruct and revolutionize the way in which we train and prepare African children. I would love to relocate to Africa and be part of a ministry of education.
Would that be a voluntary position or a paid position?
It can be. They may have to take care of my expenses. I will not charge. Most people who know me know that when I go to Africa to speak, I have never charged for an African engagement unless that engagement was for profit, where the host planned on making money, in which case I did ask for a donation. But if someone, and I've spoken Ghana, Nigeria, Togo, Benin, South Africa, Lesotho, Kenya, Egypt, Liberia, Gambia, I've been all over the continent. I have never charged for a speaking event if it's for the people, and I never will. You just have to get me there and get me back.
You have spoken very, very strongly about family values within the African American community. Of course, here in the USA, and it's a matter of fact that the black community, the black family is so much in disarray in this country. Marriages don't last. As a result, children, they go wayward. And again, you have been the champion of this. What happened? What really happened to the African American family, the black family in this country?
That is an excellent question. After the United States government used the FBI, working in concert with the mafia and the Ku Klux Klan, to assassinate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on April the 4th, 1968, the United States government decided to try a radically different approach to controlling the Black Revolution and Black Power movement in the inner cities. And in order to destroy the movement, they targeted the Black family. There is a myth that slavery destroyed the Black family. That is not true. We were married through slavery. The first time you see the growth of a single Black mother-headed household was in the 1970s. And there's reasons for that. In the 1970s, the United States government came into the Black community and they destroyed the economic system within the Black community. They took away the Black man's ability to provide for his family. They closed down the factories and they took out the industrial building trade programs in our high school. In other words, for the first time in a long time, Black men were no longer able to feed their families. That was 1970. 1980, the CIA brought crack cocaine into the Black community. Black men who couldn't provide for their families started either using the drugs to deal with the stress of not being able to provide, or they started selling the drugs in order to try to earn money to pay the bills for their family, which landed them into jail. 1990, Bill Clinton becomes president. He gives us the 1994 federal crime bill, which is the worst crime bill ever passed by Congress in the history of the United States, which exploded and mushroomed the Black mass incarceration rate. Bill Clinton gave us mandatory minimum sentences for nonviolent drug-related offenses. Before Bill Clinton, you cannot be sentenced to jail for the rest of your life for a nonviolent felony. After Bill Clinton, you could. And then in the year 2000, we get George W. Bush. He gives us the faith-based initiative, which allows the government to finance Black churches. And once Black churches started getting financed by the government, they stopped fighting for Black liberation and equality. That's why you can't name a single Black church, and there's tens of thousands of them, unfortunately, in this country. You can't name one of them that is at the forefront of fighting against miseducation, that is at the forefront of fighting against police genocide, that is at the forefront of fighting against gentrification, that is at the forefront of fighting against economic injustice against African people. You can't find a Black church that's fighting for us. So those are the 5 stages that the government put in place to destroy the Black family. And even to this day, a Black mother with children who wants to receive federal housing, in many states, if it is found out that there is an able-bodied male in that home, you can lose your federal housing. And if that male has a felony, meaning he's been to prison, and they find out that he's in that home, even if you're his wife, even if those are his kids, they will put you on the street and take your home from you. The reason the Black family is being destroyed is because the United States government is destroying it. And Barack Obama comes along after the 2008-2009 election with another weapon of mass destruction, and that is the LBGT campaign in America's public schools to convince Black boys to lead a homosexual life. Let me say this. I don't hate Black homosexuals or Black lesbians. I love all African people. That's why I became a psychotherapist, to help, not to hurt, not to judge. I oppose homosexuality because it is a weapon against the Black family. In the United States, only 1 out of every 4 Black women gets married. 1 out of 4 today. If you allow a whole generation of Black boys to be socialized into becoming homosexuals, then that number, 1 out of 4, will turn into 1 out of 400. And if there's no marriage, if there's no man and woman coming together, there's no Black children. It's called genocide.
Why do you think that in this same community, African American community, your message is considered to be controversial? For example, they will prefer to class you within the ranks of Louis Farrakhan. And you know who Louis Farrakhan is when you came out saying any man who marries any black man who marries a white woman is not a real African. Of course, that is controversial, and I can understand that. But messages that have to do with family values, they still keep you within the ranks of controversial people. Why do you think it is widely so in the black community?
Okay. The reason a lot of my philosophy and opinions and positions are considered controversial because in a world controlled by European propaganda, in a world that is dominated by lies, to tell the truth is a revolutionary act. I don't consider nothing I say, to be controversial. I consider it to be the truth. For example, I believe that black men should only date African women. African women should only date African men. That is as natural as the sun and the moon. That is as natural as water and earth. The only reason it's controversial is because that type of a position breeds black power. That type of a position will breed a strong black family. And that is exactly what the Western powers of this world do not want. Strong black men and strong black women who have a dedication to the liberation of African people, even if it costs them their life. And the other reason why what I say is considered so controversial is because these types of ideas haven't been heard for nearly 100 years, since the days of Marcus Garvey. I'm one of the first scholars, I'm the only scholar of my generation in this country and probably around the world who stands on a position of strict, unapologetically Pan-Africanism. Strict, unapologetically Pan-Africanism. I am a African fundamentalist. That means anything you ask me, anything you bring me, I'm going to ask you a simple question, which means you don't even have to bring it to me because you can answer for yourself. Anything. How does this benefit the future of African people? If you bring me homosexuality and lesbianism, I'm going to ask you, how does this being pushed on our children benefit African people? You bring me interracial dating, I'm going to ask you, how does a black man marrying a white woman benefit African people? If you bring me so-called Chinese investment, I'm going to ask you the same thing. How does letting the Chinese come into Africa and give them free reign of the land and water routes and resources benefit African people? I am a Pan-African fundamentalist. Okay, I am proud of it. I will not equivocate my positions. What I say today is the same thing I said 20 years ago. And I think it is considered controversial because most people are surprised that a man like me, with 6 degrees, a doctor of clinical psychology, with the type of money I could be making in the American social order, would trade all that in. Trade a night, I could have a white wife in the suburbs making about $1 million a year, but instead you want to fight for African liberation. And I'll tell you why. I've been in this work since I was 9 years old, a 4th grader at the George Meade Elementary School in North Philadelphia. That is when my consciousness awakened, 9 years old. And here we are, 4 or 5, 9-year cycles later, and I am still about the same business. Education has not changed me. Income has not changed me. Status, fame, celebrity, nothing has changed me. My life is dedicated to the total liberation of Africa and all of us scattered black children. And I really couldn't care what anybody thinks about it. If every African or European's opinion was to the contrary, I will still be unapologetically African.
This country is so much divided down the lines of liberals and conservatives, Democrats, Republicans, and over the years, uh, black Americans and most Africans who come to this country align themselves with the Democratic Party. But there is a growing consciousness within the black community to what they believe is a plantation politics that the Democrat play against the African American. In other words, they ask for their votes, they get their votes, and they do nothing. You see the case of Barack Obama. Maybe Clinton did something a little bit, but Barack Obama, no. Most of their presidents, no, they do nothing. Once they get there, the blacks have remained in the plantation of voting, food stamps, housing. It never changed. If I may ask you, first of all, are you a capitalist or a socialist? Which one do you prefer?
Great question. I am neither a capitalist or a socialist. I am a Pan-Africanist, which is to
Right.
say we are to evolve our own economic system. We don't need anything from Friedrich Engels. We don't need anything from Karl Marx. We don't need anything from the fathers of Western capitalism. Africa is unique. African people are unique. And we need to create our own uniquely African economic system. We do not need the intellectual leftovers of European scholars. Capitalism is an exploitative system, and socialism is an enslavement system. Africa needs neither one. We need neither enslavement nor exploitation. We need African liberation. Let us get our economists together and let us build the economic system that will benefit Africa
But
and
don't you
Africans.
realize,
That's number
Dr.
one.
Omar, that you would have to adopt one of those systems or maybe
I
both to
disagree.
operate an
I totally
effective?
disagree. I totally disagree.
Okay.
Those are just two systems. There are many others that are yet to be discovered. I totally disagree that those two European systems are the only options we have. To me, that would represent an extreme example of European intellectual and cultural domination for
And
us to admit
I say so because
that.
when you talk about Africa, Africa is a continent, is not a country. I'm saying this to say that you go to East Africa, you have a whole different culture. You go to West Africa, it's a different culture. South Africa is a different culture. Central Africa is a different culture. North Africa is a different culture. How do you bring this together to form a single system that is acceptable by all these different cultures?
We don't need a utopia. I've been to North Africa. I've been to West Africa. I've been to South Africa. I've been to East Africa. We don't need a utopia. Africa doesn't have to be a continent of robots where everybody dresses the same and thinks the same. Not at all. But we do need to agree on certain key components in order that we can exist together and build together. When the white men came together to build the United States, they didn't agree on everything. They even fought. Some people died, but they hashed it out. They found a way to work together. The Arab League, they don't all like each other. They don't all get along. But when it comes to the best interests of Arab people, they can have a time out from their petty differences long enough to work together for the benefit of the Arab people. You go to the European Union. They don't all get along. They don't all see things the same way. The European is not a utopia, but they've been able to work together long enough to hammer out a system that benefits all of their people. If the Chinese, if the Asians can do it, and the Arabs can do it, and the Anglo-Saxons can do it, why can't we? We're not looking for a utopia. We're looking for agreement along certain key lines that are mutually beneficial to all Africans in Africa and all countries in Africa. The only people who would be opposed to that are neo-colonialists and black bourgeoisies who are not interested in the liberation of Africa. They're simply interested in their own pocket and the protection of their neo-colonialist slave masters. Let me say this, if I may. The problem that Black America has, being married to a Democratic Party that's never done nothing for them, it's no different than what you see in Africa, where you got brothers and sisters that are married to certain parties because of tribalism. It's the same thing. All of our people are politically uneducated. We need a political education system that teaches our people who really makes the decisions, that teaches our people what really matters. And the biggest thing that Black America needs to understand, Black Europe, Black Canada, Black Caribbean, Black Africa, Black Australia, Black South Pacific, Central and South America, whoever, excuse me, whoever finances the campaign will control the politician who wins it. Voters don't matter. Let me say it again. Voters don't matter. Let me say it one more time. Voters do not matter. It is the funders that matter the most, because it is the funders that are going to put you in a position where you can attract the voters. No funders, no voters. We have to start financing our own candidates. As long as we let white people, and as long as we let uh, white political parties to finance the people that we want to represent us, Africa will never be free. We must build our own parties and finance our own parties. And the people we run for office cannot be the stool pigeons of France and Belgium and America and UK and China. They must have an independent mind. For example, I don't vote unless the candidate is an independent candidate. I do not vote for black people who belong to parties. I don't care what party it is, Republican, Democrat, Green Party, Libertarian. If I was in Africa, it would be the same way. If I was a citizen of Cameroon or a citizen of Nigeria, a citizen of Burkina Faso, it don't matter. If you're not an independent politician, then I know that you're not representing yourself. You're representing someone else. And we don't know who those someone else's are. You don't have your own money. You're using someone else's money. So for us to be an independent people, we need independent politicians that we finance ourselves.
Would you consider people like R. Sharpton, the J.C. Jacksons, and for the black community to be those kind of politicians you are talking about here?
I have a respect for Reverend Al Sharpton and Reverend Jesse Jackson. They have done some good, beneficial things for individuals within the African American community. They have championed some causes within the African American community. My problem with the both of them, or my criticism of them, and I say this respectfully because they're old enough to be my fathers and grandfathers, but my criticism of them, they have danced with the devil so long that they're not able to lead a truly independent system for revolutionary change. Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton can never change a system. That's why they never have. They're not free enough to change the system. They've already made too many deals with the white power structure. They can still get some things done, but they're not going to revolutionize the American economy. They're not going to revolutionize the American criminal justice system. They're not going to revolutionize the American educational system, because they have already cut too many deals. And that is why we need political education. And that is why we need independent education for black children, so they can understand the only way you're going to be effective as a black leader is if you don't owe nobody anything. Dr. Umar, I'm not a Greek, I'm not a Mason, I'm not an elk. I don't belong to any secret societies. I'm not a homosexual. There is no club that I belong to. I can sit here and tell you honestly, in the presence of God and my ancestors, there is no secret society that I belong to. Nothing is secret with me. Everything is for the liberation of African people, and that's how we need to train our sons and daughters.
I think many Africans, including myself, have been very, very disappointed with the rule that people like R. Sharpton, the J.C. Jacksons of American politics, have played, because these were people that many of us Africans would be thinking they would help reshape American African policy, the kind of policy that engineers the kind of Pan-Africanism that you are talking about here. I think they have been, I would say, in power, not in politics, long enough to have shaped a better Africa, because I think at a point in time, they had that power, they had the resources. J.C. Jackson is a household name everywhere in Africa. R. Sharpton is, and many of them. But I think Africans are very, very disappointed that these men never helped to shape a better policy for the American government in particular, for Africa.
Well, my question, I agree with what you said, but my question for those Africans who are disappointed would be, why are you disappointed? Jesse Jackson has never professed to be a Pan-Africanist. Al Sharpton has never professed to be a Pan-Africanist. You have to understand, after the Honorable Marcus Garvey was deported from the United States of America in 1927, most of the leaders that came after Marcus Garvey did not have a Pan-Africanist mindset. We had a few of them, Malcolm X, but he was only able to work for 1 year before he was assassinated by the United States government with assistance of jealous people in the black community. You had Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, another Pan-Africanist who tried to do some work. But our people have been taken so far away from Pan-Africanism that they were only interested in domestic integrationism. So one of the things that I have done with some success, thanks to the Creator, is I have brought back the conversation on Pan-Africanism in the United States. Because let us be clear, Pan-Africanism was born in America. It was born in America. Henry Highland Garnett, Alexander Crummell, John Brown Rushworm, Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, and I can go on and on. Pan-Africanism was born in America and it was taken across the world. So it is my responsibility to do what? Imbibe that again within the spirit and within the political conversation and narrative, and it's coming back. I can tell you right now, during this COVID crisis, more African Americans, or as I like to say, American Africans, have contacted me about relocating to Africa than I've ever had before. Literally, if I were able to financially escort Africans from America to Africa at no cost, I would probably have no less than 2,000 families ready to go. I know I would have 500 families ready to go. That is how many people are reaching out to me saying, I'm ready to go home and give it another chance. I want to go to Africa and see if I can do better there. However,
where in Africa do you hope to go to?
Okay, here's what I tell brothers and sisters in the West, whether that's Central South America, Caribbean, United States, Canada, or the United Kingdom. It depends on what your contribution to Africa will be. If you plan on getting into education, you will choose certain countries. All countries can use schools, right? But there's certain countries where there's a premium on education and where the parents are comfortable enough where they can pay for independent education, like a Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, and other places. If you plan on getting into farming, every country has farming, but depending on what you're going to farm, that might dictate to where you go. If you plan on building hospitals, that might dictate where you want to go. If you want to get involved in logistics and transportation of materials, that might decide where you want to go. So I tell people to research the countries. Any African nation can benefit from you. Any of your brothers and sisters will welcome you back home. But make your decision strategic based on what your contribution is going to be. For me, example, I love Ghana. I love it. My ancestral lineage goes to Ghana and Nigeria. Okay? And you're from Cameroon, and you know Nigeria, Cameroon shares borders. So prior to the white man, who knows? You and I might be related somewhere down the line. But nonetheless, okay, as much as I love Ghana and Nigeria, Nigeria is very much well populated. Ghana is getting very much well populated, almost to the point of being overcrowded. So for me, I might want to go somewhere else because Ghana,
You
Nigeria,
are welcome to Ambazonia, where we are always 8 million of us with a lot of
I'm
resources.
looking forward to doing. I would be looking forward very much so because I've never been to the Cameroon, and I'm looking forward to coming to Ambazonia. But the last point I wanted to make on this is I want our people to go to countries that are not currently in the repatriation conversation. What about Gambia, Zambia? What about Botswana, Zimbabwe? What about some of the smaller countries in Africa? What about Chad and the Central African Republic and Gabon? I mean, Eritrea. I mean, there's so many countries that are not being talked about by Africans in the West that I think would be the perfect repatriation destination because they don't have enough of us there as it is.
All right, Doctor, we have, I've held you long, really long enough, and thank you for that time. We have about 15 minutes to go. I will open the phone line, and before I do that, I would like to ask listeners, please, if you're calling in, make sure you turn down the volume of your set. We do not need the echo in the background when you call. So before you call, make sure that the volume of your set is turned down and you focus on your phone. All right, Doctor, let's talk a little bit about the university you are setting up and your vision for education in Africa. What do you think African schools are not teaching in those institutions that should be taught?
Okay. And once again, the curriculum will be consistent across the globe because all African children need the same education. So number one, you got to give them agricultural science. You got to give them spiritual science, the traditional way in which we dealt with our ancestors and the creator. You got to give them dietary science. Even Africans now are dying of diseases that they did not traditionally suffer from. And that is because with modernization of Africa, okay, I would call it the poisonization of Africa. Not the modernization, but the poisonization. You guys now have McDonald's, you have Burger King, you got Walmart. And so y'all starting to eat a lot of the processed foods that we eat in the West, and it's giving our brothers and sisters in Africa cancer. We also will teach military science, the art of war, political war and military war. We have to teach our sons how to defend their mothers and daughters and their grandmothers and their communities. We have to teach that. Okay, we will also teach science of the black family, science of the black family, how to build family and keep it together. Because again, traditional African family structure is being attacked. And the sixth science is economic and financial science. They must understand how the World Bank works, how the International Monetary Fund works, how African nations are the richest minerally, but the poorest financially. How can you be the richest minerally, but the poorest financially? We will also teach them how to invest, how to build their own stock markets, their own banks, their own credit unions, how to get into the real estate market. We want to make sure they can be independently financial, because only a financially independent person can speak the truth. I'm financially independent. I can speak the truth. I don't have to worry about being fired from my job. And that's why so many Africans around the world are forced to behave like coons, and they are forced to betray our people because they are not financially independent. A black man and woman who are not financially independent is a traitor waiting to happen.
All right. Thank you for that. Let me get the first caller in. Hello, sir.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. Where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling from Michigan.
Okay. And what is your contribution?
Hi, Dr. Omar. I follow you a lot on Twitter, and I'm your great fan. Here is my question to you. Every decision in the world is political. Pan-Africanism involves political decision making. What I'm saying is that the Congressional Black Caucus is the most powerful black political organization in the world. The African Union is controlled by France and other European countries. Why can't you align with these political organizations? Because I believe every decision in the world is political to help transform Africa. And if you were given the opportunity, what pains you about Africa that you can just snap your finger and change immediately? Thank you.
Dr. Omar, please.
Okay. I heard the whole question, but what organization did he mention? Did he say the Congressional Black Caucus of the United States, or was that another organization? Do we know the name of the organization he mentioned? Let me say this. I am willing to work with
Can you hold the line, please? Stay on hold.
Thank you, Secretary Chris.
I am willing to work with any progressive black organization, but it must be progressive and not symbolic. It must also be independent, and it must be exclusive. What does that mean? There are no non-African members. There are no non-African dollars. There are no non-African members. There are no non-African dollars. If you have non-African money and non-African members, you are not serious, and I will not waste my time with you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Omar. Let's get to the next caller. Hello, sir. Hello. I guess that caller is not ready there. Let's see who next is on the line. Hello. Hello.
Yes,
May I know where you're calling from, please?
I'm calling from Washington, D.C.
Okay. What is your question or contribution, sir?
Okay, I have a question for Dr. Omar. Dr. Omar, what have you done with HCBUs, which educate most of the African Americans to know or to have a knowledge of Pan-Africanism, because as you espouse, education is one of the salvations of African Americans or Africans or the black people as a whole. So considering that HCBUs, the historically black universities in the United States, educate a majority of the African American intelligentsia, what relationship do you have with them? Or what programs have you put in place with these HCBUs to ensure that, your work that you're doing actually bears fruit to let our people here know and study African spirituality and African economic independence, so that they can one day quickly move back home or back to the mother continent to develop it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Johnson, please.
Well, first, let me say that I support HBCUs. I support them. I did not attend one myself only because I could not afford it. I was accepted into Morehouse College in Atlanta, but I could not afford the out-of-state tuition, so I stayed in Pennsylvania. You're absolutely right. They're responsible for most blacks with degrees, almost exclusively responsible for our medical doctors and attorneys. I support HBCUs. I can't say that enough. I have a college tour, an HBCU college tour that we do, that we'll be doing again once this COVID crisis passes. With that being said, you also need to know that most of our HBCUs, as much as I love them, are financed by white people, white philanthropists, white institutions. And many of them are fearful of losing their white support. And because of that, they would never associate with someone who is as radical and revolutionary and original and unapologetic about their thinking as I am. So although I speak at HBCUs all the time, I get invited on a regular basis, I've spoken at many of them, I do not see them necessarily embarking upon an agenda or an initiative where Dr. Umar Johnson would play a role in it, because simply stated, a lot of their white funders would pull out if they knew they had such a relationship with me. Here's what I'm saying. We need to build modern black colleges and universities. That's right. Not only in America, but in Africa and all across the world. Modern black universities whose sole purpose is the liberation of African people. That's revolutionary engineering, revolutionary economics, revolutionary education, revolutionary family planning, revolutionary spirituality, revolutionary agriculture, revolutionary military science. We need modern black universities for a black liberation.
All right, thanks for that. Let's take the next caller. Hello. Oh, I think we missed that caller here. Let's see who's next. Hello.
Hi, Secretary. So I would like to ask Dr. Omar a question.
Okay, where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling from Philadelphia. This is Comrade Mike.
All right, what's your question, sir?
My question is I wanted to ask about talking about coming together.
Okay.
Throughout history, the African continent has been exploited by various people at different times, and be it the Arabs, the Europeans, the Chinese, you name it, and they come in poor and they leave rich. But one group that has been conspicuously absent has been the Black American brothers. And I wanted to ask Dr. Umar where our black brothers are, especially the black celebrities. Why are they not speaking up for Africa, or at least investing in Africa? And what can we do to get their attentions?
That's a very good question, Dr. Omar. How connected are you with these black celebrities? You mentioned something in this country, the black guy makes money, he turns to the white guy and spread the money, but they don't look back to their roots. Do you have any connections, good connections with these celebrities? Thank you for the call.
I have relationships with some of them. I'm supported by many of them, but not publicly. The black celebrity has never and will never play a major role in the global African revolution. That's whether they live in Africa, that's whether they live in Brazil, Jamaica, USA, it does not matter. Most black celebrities became celebrities through the white power structure, through the white man's entertainment, through the white man's sports. You understand? So if you got rich through his system, what are the chances that you're going to turn around and bite the hand that feeds you in order to liberate your own people? It's not going to happen. And when it comes to Black America or Black Europe, Black Canada, we don't need their assistance because we are in the United States, we're a $2 trillion people. What do I need Jay-Z for? What do I need Beyonce? And I love and respect them both, but I'm just naming random celebrities. What do I need celebrity help when I'm spending $20 billion a year on weave and perm and beauty products? Why do I need celebrities when I'm spending $4 billion a year on alcohol and malt liquor? Why do I need celebrities when I'm spending $2 billion a year on Nike and Air Jordans? And I'm buying twice as many Mercedes-Benz cars as white people. I don't need no celebrity help. What
But
I
you
need
know,
is
they
to
have a louder voice, Dr. Omar. Those celebrities, they have a louder voice and the influence on the younger generation, I would say, more than you do. And so don't you think it would be complementary to have them in your projects than to say, hey, I really don't think I need them?
Okay. I would agree that some of them may have a louder voice. I am much more prevalent amongst the youth than even the top celebrities in this country. Few of them have the type of impact that I do. With that being said, they're not going to do it. See, we're still not understanding that the black celebrity serves the white power structure. Once you understand that they serve them, they are controlled by them. You saw what happened with Nick Cannon 2 weeks ago. You saw what they did to Nick Cannon. You saw what they did to Bill Cosby. This is what they do. You get out of line and they will destroy you. And the reason they can destroy you is because you're not independent. You did not make your money independently. You made it through a relationship and a collaboration with the white power structure. So why are we looking to black people who are beholden to their financial slave master to turn around and bite the hand that feeds them to liberate black people? First of all, I don't want to be overly punitive to our celebrities. Most black people are not willing to sacrifice what they have for African liberation. Let us be clear. Most of us, even on the bottom, would not sacrifice what we have for African liberation. So I don't know why we're expecting them to do it. They're no more likely to do it than the rest of us. My point is this: they will help us in the end when they have no other choice. When we are thoroughly organized to the point where we can demand that they help, they will have no problem because they will be obligated. And they will have to tell their white slave masters in the entertainment media that, listen, my whole community said if I don't help them, they will never come to another concert. They will never support me again. They will never watch another TV show. So I have to do this in order to keep my career. When we get to that level, they will all come running. Until we get to that level, leave them alone. They
Oh,
have to know we are serious. They have to know we are serious, and I don't blame them. You can't expect a millionaire and a billionaire to jeopardize everything they have for black people who are not even demonstrating with what they already have that we mean business. We got to show the celebrities that we mean business. Talk is cheap. Just like the African American has to show the African. The African American has to show the African that we mean business. And some people would say, why don't the African have to show the African American that we mean business? I'll tell you why. Because we are the richest financially, not minerally. Africa is the king of the world minerally. I'm talking about income. I'm talking about income and financial comfort. The African American is the richest and most educated population of Africans in the world, formally educated, if you would, which doesn't necessarily mean intelligence, but it means formal education and financially lucrative. So we should be, more than any other group in the world, in the diaspora, the African American, more than any other population, should be the vanguard of building that relationship with the mother continent, because we have the money and the means. We have the money and the means, and we are not using it the way that we should be using it, which is to say that if China takes Africa, or if the white man takes Africa, again, the African American will be at the top of the list for who is to blame for that happening.
All right, thank you. We have just one more caller to go. Hello, sir.
Hello, Six Chris. Thank you. I've got one question for Dr. Umar.
Where are you calling from, please?
From Australia.
Okay, go ahead with your question, please.
Yes, I've got a question for you, Doc. Can you just spend maybe 1 minute to advise us Africans? We have been known, Black people, to be the ones that are there to take the life of another. Like, we like to take the life of another. Like, if we see someone's doing the right thing, that's going to even help us as well. We would always go for their life, or maybe dub them in. So I want you to advise us. I know you talk about it on your podcast, but please just advise us, like, how do we deal with this? There's always that coon, there's always that bourgeoisie, African Ambazonian bourgeoisie. We have some in Ambazonia that are always trying to destroy or take down the very brave ones that are there to do the right thing, to free us. So please, just dedicate 1 minute to advise us Africans on this very bad habit. Thank you.
Thank you for the call, sir. All right, Dr. Omar, please.
There will need to be an intellectual civil war in Black America. I want to instigate, not a physical one. I'm not talking bloodshed. I want to instigate an intellectual civil war in Black America. We need to instigate an intellectual civil war in Africa. We need to instigate an intellectual civil war in Haiti, you understand, and in Panama, because we got to find out who's who. What he's talking about is coons amongst us. And the reason we don't even know they're coons is because we're not instigating intellectual conversation. See, it's easy for Dr. Umar to know who doesn't like me because I'm blatantly honest with what I say. And because I'm so honest with what I believe, you either love me or you hate me. You don't get in betweens with me. And the reason you don't get an in between with me is because I'm so blatantly public with what I stand for. We have to get everybody to come forward with who they are. If you believe in cooperation with the oppressor, so be it. At least we know not to pull you in. If you believe in repatriation, we need to know that. If you into the homosexual agenda, let us know. Let everybody come clean. Be honest. So for those of us who are serious about the Pan-African struggle, we can gravitate to like minds and begin this work. We don't have time to waste. And too many of our leaders have wasted time with Negroes who knew up front they had no interest in going where we were taking them.
Well, Doctor, I wish we had much more time to go on and on and on. I look forward to it.
Let me give your listeners my contact information if I can,
all right, please.
Elder, in case they want to reach me. Issues with their children, mental health.
And the school also, I think many of us Africans are interested in the college or the university that you're setting up. We will very much need information about that.
Will do. To reach me, the website is drumarjohnson.com, drumarjohnson.com. The email address is the same, drumarjohnson@yahoo.com. You can reach me by telephone at either 215-989-9858. I repeat, and I prefer text message on that number, 215 989-9858. If you are international in Africa or other places, add me on WhatsApp and you can message me by way of WhatsApp so neither of us incur any additional telephone charges. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dr. Umar Johnson, and on Facebook using my Yoruba name, Dr. Umar Ifa Tunde, on Facebook. And if you want to donate to the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, you can do so by mailing your check or money order payable to FDMG Academy to P.O. Box 9634. That's P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware 19809. And if you'd like to work or volunteer at the school, this is for any African in the diaspora. I'm accepting resumes that can be emailed to fdmgresumes. I repeat, fdmgresumes@gmail.com.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We will definitely continue this conversation another day because I think there is so much in you to learn from. I will look forward to inviting you again with other Pan-Africanists who are actually Africans. I think there is still so much to talk about.
Well, we are all actually Africans. You mean Africans from the continent, Bob?
Right, right. All right. It was a pleasure to have you, so you have a great night.
Thank you, Bob. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Umar Johnson coming to us from the great state of Delaware. We'll look forward to hosting him again one of these days on ABC Amber Television. I hope that you had fun. You had fun out of him, and I look forward to bringing him back and other Pan-African or African nationalists to speak to African issues and African development, democracy, and government. So please, I hope this has been a blessing. I look forward to coming back to you later in the week. But remember, ABC is drafting. ABC is drafting on August 30th, and I look forward to every one of you coming out to draft for ABC. And we're also launching the news unit of ABC on August 19th. No, I think it's August 20th. We're launching the news unit of ABC on August 20th. So please, we'll look forward to your support and your encouragement. Thanks for staying tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I will see you later in the week. You have a great night. God bless you all.
You need a financial instrument that provides a hedge against inflation, 100% guarantees that you will not lose your money, has tax-free growth and distribution, the ability to take an interest-free loan, avoids probate, provides creditor protection, guarantees your family that your income will be replaced should you die, helps you protect yourself financially against chronic, critical, and terminal illness, and of course allows you to take money anytime for any reason at any age without a tax penalty. You need only as little as $50 to invest per month